The lonely throne. The great hall of the alien empire was filled with lights, banners, and long shadows. But in the middle of all that beauty sat a throne that felt cold and empty. It was not empty because no one was sitting on it. It was empty because the one sitting there was never truly seen. She was the princess, the only daughter of the emperor. Her skin carried strange silver marks from birth, and her left leg never moved as fast as others in the eyes of her people. This was weakness to them. An heir should be strong, perfect and full of power, but she was not. Many times the emperor had tried to arrange suitors, princes, or warriors from other worlds. But when they saw her, they turned their eyes away. Some laughed behind her back, some whispered cruel words, others simply left without a bow. Every rejection cut her like a blade. She learned to sit on her throne without hope, her heart heavy, her voice silent. She smiled when needed, but inside she wondered why she was even alive. She wanted someone to see her as more than a broken body. But day after day no one came. The court was full of noise, yet around her was silence. Guards stood tall, nobles gossiped in low voices, and ambassadors from distant planets avoided looking at her. She had become the shadow of the empire's pride, a hidden shame. Rumors spread across the galaxy. They said the alien princess would never find a mate. They said she was cursed. They said her empire would end with her. She heard these words carried by servants and echoed in halls. She never cried in public, but her chambers had seen many tears on one evening. When the court was filled with alien nobles, her father announced once again, "Our princess is ready to meet those who wish to stand beside her." His voice was strong, but his eyes held doubt. He already knew what would happen. Nobles lined up, faces proud, some pretending interest, some whispering jokes, but none dared to step forward when the moment arrived. The silence that followed was sharp. It stabbed the princess deeper than any blade. She lowered her head. Her hands tightened on the throne's arms. She thought, "Why do they bring me here again? Why do they make me feel this pain again?" She wanted to disappear, and then suddenly, the great doors of the hall opened. The sound echoed through the chamber. Everyone turned, expecting another noble, but what they saw made whispers spread like fire. It was not an alien prince, not a warrior of the empire. It was a human. The court gasped. Some laughed, some sneered. Humans were known as deathworlders, creatures who lived on a harsh planet where even the air and the animals could kill. They were seen as dangerous, savage, and too different from the refined races of the galaxy. What was a human doing in the royal court? Walking straight toward the throne, the human was tall, his steps calm, his eyes steady, unlike the others. He did not look away from the princess. He did not look at her leg, or the silver marks on her skin. His eyes stayed on her face, and for the first time, she felt as if someone truly saw her. The nobles muttered, "This is madness. This is insult." But the human kept walking until he stood at the foot of the throne. He bowed his head with respect. The hall fell silent. The silence was heavier than before. This silence was not of shame. It was of shock. The princess looked at him. Her lips parted, but no words came. Why would a human come here? Why would he stand before her? The human raised his head, his voice calm but filled with strength. "I came to stand before the princess, not to mock her, not to judge her, but to see her." Her heart stopped for a moment. She could not believe what she heard. Her chest felt tight, her eyes stung. No one had ever said such words to her. The court exploded in whispers. Nobles shouted, some demanded he be removed. Others laughed louder, calling it a joke. The emperor's face grew dark. His voice thundered, "Human, you dare stand before my daughter? What game do you play?" But the human did not tremble. He did not step back. His eyes never left the princess. The princess's hands trembled for the first time in her life. She felt a small spark of light inside the darkness. It was fragile, it was dangerous, but it was real. The hall raged around her, but she only heard his words, not to mock her, not to judge her, but to see her, and deep in her heart, she knew her life had just changed. Though she did not yet know if it was for salvation or destruction, the lonely throne was no longer silent. It had become the center of a storm, and at the eye of that storm stood a human. The human's strange respect. The hall was still filled with noise, shouts of anger, whispers of insult, and sharp laughter that cut like knives, but the human stood calm, as if he carried silence inside himself. Guards moved forward, their blades drawn, ready to drag him out, but before they reached, the princess raised her hand, her voice weak but clear. "Stop." It was the first time she had spoken in front of the court in weeks. Her father's eyes narrowed, but he allowed it, curious. All eyes turned to the princess, her silver-marked face glowing under the light for the first time. She wanted to know why someone would step into her silence. The human bowed again, not with fear but with dignity. I come from a world where survival is pain. Every breath is a battle. Yet in that battle we learned something. The weak are not useless, the wounded are not shameful. They are the ones who teach us strength. The court laughed louder. One noble shouted, "Humans speak poetry to hide their barbaric ways." Another hissed, "Remove him before he stains the throne with his madness." But the human ignored them. His eyes fixed only on the princess. "You sit on this throne, yet they do not see you. They see only your scars. But I see the courage it takes to sit here while the whole galaxy judges you." Her chest tightened. Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken like this. Even her father, the emperor, had only seen her as a broken piece of the empire. But this stranger from a savage world, he looked at her as if she was whole. A hush fell over a corner of the hall. Not from respect, but from shock. How dare a human speak of courage to a princess? The emperor's voice shook the ground. "Human, your tongue is bold. Do you come to mock us or to challenge us?" The human straightened, his voice firm. "I come to honor her." Silence fell. Thick, heavy, unbearable. The princess felt her hands tremble again, not from fear but from something else, something new in the shadows. Nobles whispered of punishment. Some demanded his head, others wanted him exiled. But beneath the anger was something darker. Fear? They feared his words because they carried truth. The human stepped closer, ignoring the gasps. Every step he took felt like thunder to the princess's heart. When he stopped just below her throne, he lowered his head once more and whispered words that froze time itself. "Choose me," the court roared, laughter mixed with outrage. Some shouted for his execution, others for his banishment, but the sound reached her ears like waves crashing. And yet in the middle of that storm, she heard only his whisper. Her father slammed his staff. Lights trembled across the ceiling. "You dare speak this before my throne, before my blood?" A human dares to ask what no alien prince had the courage to claim. But the princess, for the first time, lifted her chin high. Her eyes met the human's, and she felt strength rising in her chest. It was dangerous, it was reckless, but it was alive. The nobles hissed. "If she even considers this, the empire will collapse," one ambassador spat. "Better the throne stay empty forever than be tainted by a human." But the human's whisper still echoed inside her. And she wondered, what if he is not here to taint me? What if he is here to free me? The guards moved again, swords drawn. One raised his blade toward the human's chest. But before he could strike, the princess's voice rang across the hall, louder than ever before, and stopped this time. No one laughed, no one whispered. Her voice carried something new, power. The human stood still, not flinching, not afraid, and the princess's eyes never left his. Inside her heart a war had started, between fear and hope, between tradition and defiance, between silence and the first spark of love, and she knew the storm was only beginning. Defiance against the empire. The human's whisper still echoed in the hall. "Choose me." But the roar of the court rose louder than thunder. Nobles shouted, ambassadors cursed, and guards demanded blood. The emperor stood from his golden throne, his eyes like fire. "Enough, this insult has gone too far. Remove him," the guards rushed forward. But before they could touch the human, the princess stood from her throne, her silver-marked leg trembling yet strong, her voice cutting through the chaos. "No one will touch him." Silence fell, the kind of silence that made even the torches flicker lower. Never before had the princess raised her voice against her father's command. Never before had she spoken with such force. The emperor's jaw tightened. "You dare defy me, your own blood? For a human?" Her lips trembled, but she did not look away. "For once in my life, I will not be silent," the court gasped. The nobles leaned forward. Sensing history turning before their eyes, the human did not move, he only watched, his steady gaze meeting hers, as if telling her he would not run. No matter what came, a high noble shouted, "This cannot be allowed. A human as consort will shame the empire. Every ally will turn against us," an ambassador spat. "If she chooses him, our treaties are broken. Our ships will turn against yours." The emperor's face darkened. "You see what you cause, human. You threaten the very empire." But the human answered calmly, "I do not threaten it, your fear does." The words were like a blade in the hall. Sharp and undeniable, nobles shouted again, "Kill him now, before he poisons her mind further." Others screamed, "Exile the princess if she refuses tradition." The princess's hands curled into fists. For so long she had been treated like a broken shadow, a shame hidden behind silk curtains, but now, because of one whisper, she stood in the center of a storm. Her heart raced, but her voice was steady. If you exile him, then exile me as well. I will not stay in a palace built on cruelty." Her father's eyes widened. Shock flashing across his face, the court erupted, half in horror, half in disbelief. A princess threatening exile was a wound to the empire itself. The emperor stepped down from his throne, his steps shaking the hall. He stopped before her, towering like a storm. "You are my daughter. You carry my blood. And you would throw it away for this savage?" The princess's lips trembled, but she whispered back, "I would rather throw it away than live unseen." The emperor's hand shook with rage, but he did not strike. He could not. Not before the watching eyes of the court. A cold voice from the council spoke. "Then let him prove it. If the human is not a savage but worthy, let him survive the trials. Let the empire itself decide." All eyes turned to the speaker, an elder noble, his face twisted with cruelty. The emperor's rage softened into something darker. Calculation. Yes, let him face the trials. If he survives, the throne will hear his claim, but if he dies, his blood will stain this hall as warning. The princess's heart dropped. She knew the trials. They were not games. They were designed to break the strongest warriors of the galaxy. Few ever returned alive. She turned toward the human. Her lips parted, fear in her eyes, but his face held no fear. Only a calm strength. He bowed slightly. "Not to the emperor, not to the nobles, but to her, for you. I will walk through their fire." The hall shook with uproar, some cheering for his death, some whispering in awe. The princess felt tears rise, not from weakness, but from the weight of what was coming. The trials were cruel. The empire was merciless. But for the first time she was not alone. For the first time, someone was willing to stand with her against the galaxy, and deep inside her chest, a dangerous hope was born. The test of loyalty. The day of the trials arrived. The empire's arena glowed under alien suns, built of black stone and ancient fire. It had swallowed countless warriors, and today it waited for one human. Thousands filled the seats, nobles in golden robes, soldiers in steel armor, commoners whispering, "This is madness, a human cannot survive." Others sneered, "Let him die and end this shame." The princess sat behind a silver lattice, hidden from most eyes, her heart pounding as she watched. She had begged her father to stop this, but he only said, "If he dies, your foolishness dies with him." The gates opened and the human walked into the arena, unarmored except for simple leather straps, no shield, no sword of alien craft, only a spear given by the guards. The crowd laughed. He will not last a breath. Deathworlders are wild, but here he will break. The first trial began, the ground cracked, and out of the pit crawled a beast with 4 jaws and burning eyes. A creature bred only for blood. The human did not run. He planted his feet, his eyes calm. The princess's breath caught. The beast roared, rushing like fire. The crowd cheered for death, but the human moved, not with strength, but with timing. His body slipped aside. His spear struck not with fury, but with precision, piercing the creature's eye. The arena fell silent, 1 strike, 1 kill. Nobles shifted uneasily. "Luck," one muttered. "Nothing but luck." But the princess's lips trembled into a smile. She whispered, "No, not luck. He knows." The second trial began. Walls shifted, turning the arena into a labyrinth. Spears fired from hidden slits, poisoned blades waiting in the dark. The human pressed his hand to the stone, listening, moving carefully. Every step measured. When a spear shot out, he ducked as if he had seen it before. When a blade fell, he rolled and caught himself. The crowd grew restless. He should have died. Why does he move like he has walked this path before? But only the princess understood. She whispered, "Death world." His home was already a labyrinth of dangers. The final trial began, and the arena floor shook. The air burned. Flames rose in spirals, and from the fire stepped a giant, armored in molten steel, holding a hammer the size of a man. The crowd cheered. Now he will break. The giant raised its hammer, swinging with force that split the ground. But the human did not meet strength with strength. He moved aside, letting the giant's power destroy itself. Each strike heavier, each miss slower, until at last the human leaped forward, driving his spear into the giant's chest where the armor cracked. The giant fell, fire fading. Silence filled the arena. No one laughed now. No one whispered of shame. The human stood tall, his chest rising, his body bruised but unbroken. His eyes lifted to the lattice where the princess watched, and even through the distance, their gazes met. The council elder rose, his voice sharp. "He survived, but at what cost? Do not forget he is still human, still alien to us." But before the words spread, the human lifted his voice, strong and clear. "I did not fight for your empire. I did not fight for your glory. I fought because she deserves someone who will not look away, gasps echoed. The princess covered her mouth, tears burning her eyes. The emperor clenched his fists, rage and fear in his heart. But he saw it too, the people's silence, the nobles' unease, the undeniable truth. The human had faced the trials, and the trials had not broken him instead. He had broken the silence around the throne, and in that silence, the princess's heart whispered back the words that had begun it all. Choose me. But the storm was not over. The storm was only growing. The whisper that changed destiny. The arena was still heavy with silence. Smoke from the fallen giant drifted into the air, and every eye in the empire stared at the lone human who had survived what no alien prince dared to face. The council elder rose, his voice sharp as a blade. He may have survived the trials, but this is not enough. He is still human, still unworthy of our blood. Nobles cheered his words, shouting, "Send him away. Banish the insult. Let him never stand before the throne again." But their voices were broken by another, a voice soft yet strong, rising from behind the silver lattice. The princess stepped forward, her leg trembling, her silver-marked face glowing in the firelight. She moved out from the shadows and into the open, the entire empire seeing her as she truly was, not hidden, not silent. She stood tall, her eyes locked on the human, and her voice carried across the arena. "I will choose," gasps swept through the crowd. The emperor himself stiffened, his hands clutching his staff as if to stop her words. "Daughter, think carefully," his voice thundered. "If you speak, the empire itself will change." Her eyes never left the human. Her lips trembled, but her voice was steady. "Then let it change." The human bowed his head slightly. Waiting, not pushing, not demanding, only waiting. The nobles screamed, "If she chooses him, we will rebel. If she chooses him, the empire will burn." But the princess lifted her chin, her voice rising like a blade of light. "No one wanted me, no one saw me, no one believed I was more than my scars, but he did." The crowd fell silent, her words slicing through their anger. She stepped closer to the edge of the platform, her eyes wet with tears but her voice steady. He whispered what no one else had the courage to say. "He asked me to choose, not as a symbol, not as a throne, but as myself," the emperor roared. "This is madness. The empire cannot survive such shame." But the princess faced him, her heart racing. "Father, it is not shame to be seen. It is not shame to be loved." The arena shook with cries of outrage. Nobles demanded war. Ambassadors threatened to break treaties. Soldiers clashed their weapons in protest. But then, like thunder cutting through storm, the princess spoke the words that would mark history forever. "I choose him." Silence fell. Deep and endless, the human lifted his head, their eyes meeting across the firelit arena, and his lips moved with the same whisper that had begun it all. "Choose me always." Her tears fell, but her smile was radiant. The first true smile of her life. The crowd erupted again, chaos ripping through the empire. But among the people, among the soldiers, among the servants who had always watched her suffer in silence, a spark was lit. They saw courage, they saw defiance, they saw hope. The emperor staggered back, rage and fear battling inside him. He had built an empire on pride and strength, but now his daughter had broken it with compassion, and though the nobles screamed of rebellion, though ambassadors shouted of war, one truth could not be denied. The human had faced the empire's trials, and the princess had chosen him. From that moment, the throne was no longer lonely, and the galaxy, watching from afar, whispered of a storm that had only just begun.